Hey everyone, it's Simone Watson, and today I am going to talk about my method for choosing an author mentor match mentor. Now, I actually am already an AMM mentee because AMM does not have a technical ending. So I am a mentee from round 5, and the round that is starting now is round 8. I actually meant to get this video up last week because the entry period is already going on, so I'm sorry about that. But the point I'm making is that I am not entering this year. I just wanted to show you an example of my method. So this is what the Author Mentor Match website looks like, and then there's a page with the mentors, and you can just kind of scroll and see all the mentors, listed, and click on their name, get to their wish list and the stuff about them and stuff. So here, in order to demonstrate this method to you, I have made some fake mentors. These are the quote-unquote mentors that we are using for this exercise. And yes, you can count how many times I end up using the word mentor in this video. I am very tempted to say it like mentor, but I'm trying not to sound too Floridian. So anyway, there are 10 of them here. Now, I have this set up to give you 3 different examples. So if you click on this, how to choose author mentor match mentors, I gave you 3 examples, but I'm actually only going to do this for one because I'm going to do this for YA Fabulism, and that's just because I made all these mentors on the episode interactive thing, interface, and it's just making more than 10 was going to be kind of difficult. But here you can see that, just for future reference, we have adult women's fiction. I put this title called The Winnower. For the purposes of AMM, we would refer to this as adult contemporary. And then I have this little middle grade contemporary idea here called Bubblegum Wars, which is not that much of a whip. So for now, we are using my YA Fabulism work in progress. I'm just using it as an example. So here's an overview of the steps. Step 1, we're going to ask ourselves what this project is. It can be hard sometimes for people to categorize their manuscript. One mistake that happens a lot, I think, is for people to think their manuscript is a romance when it's actually women's fiction, or generally any novel that has romantic elements. So you need to know what your project is. Then you need to know which mentors are accepting your genre, which is pretty, self-explanatory. They'll have that right at the front on the mentor page. Then you have step 3, look at their anti-MSWL, which is MSWL is a manuscript wish list. So you look at their anti-wish list, then their wish list, then their mentoring style and what I'm looking for in a mentee, which is something that they have there, and then your extra details. The reason why I put anti-MSWL before MSWL is because one of the most frustrating things is when you're reading someone's mentor blog post and you're looking at the MSWL first and you're like, yes, my book has A, B, C, D, and E. And then you go down to the anti-MSWL and it's like the exact thing that your book is, and you're so disappointed. So to avoid that disappointment, we will right off the bat eliminate those who don't want what we have. Because yes, there may be something that they want in the manuscript, but if I'm going to get to the bottom and realize that they don't want it, then, it's better to just know that early on. Okay? So, and then I have TV tropes because I tried to make these wish lists and might need a bit of help. So here we are going to go to our mentor. Oh, sorry. First we go to what is this project? Before you even look at the mentor profiles, understand certain things about your manuscript. So this project is called Tethered. It takes place in the future and there is some magic. So the genre is kind of like a science fantasy or fabulism. I would say fabulism just because it's sort of like the magic is ingrained in the reality type of I don't know how to explain. It's different from fantasy. It's not like you put some magic on top of stuff. You put the magic in the ingredients of the reality. I can explain more about that later if you want to know the difference between fabulism and fantasy, for example. But anyway, this is mostly a fabulism manuscript. Then we're going to go to buzzwords. Buzzwords is a term I got from Samantha from Thoughts on Tomes, and I guess it just means like the things about a book that kind of stand out. So I put royalty, a bit of magic, future, love, more friendship than romance, sort of, diversity, and an HBCU. This is something that I don't see in a lot of YA, but there is an HBCU, which is a historically black college or university. Um, this is a very cool part of my culture that I wanted to explore. And then potential triggers, grief. So this book does deal with grief. So if anyone says their anti-MSWL is grief, we know, what to do there. So our second step, how do I get back to, okay. Y'all, I'm still figuring out Notion. I just started using it on like New Year's Day. So, okay. So oh, and you don't have to do this on Notion. You can do this on a piece of paper with a pencil. You can do this on Google Docs. You can do this Microsoft Word. You can do this anywhere you want to do this. So, step 2, mentors who are accepting this genre. Again, this is going to be pretty straightforward because they're just going to come right out and say it, right? So, for us, I'm going to put a little slash mark so I can get to a to-do list. And we're just going to go mentor A, mentor B, mentor C, mentor D. Let's see, who doesn't rep our genre? I need to pick someone to be the one that doesn't rep our genre just for the purposes of this example. So, sorry, that was the wrong page. Definitely clicked the wrong thing there. Now I have to back arrow. All of these we're already assuming are repping young adult, right? So for now, we need to know who is repping fabulism specifically. Fabulism is not going to be the most common genre out there. So if there are 10 mentors, which there are more than 10, but if there are 10 mentors, you're probably not going to find like 90% of them repping what you write, but it's a possibility. So for now, we are going to assume that everyone reps what we write except for Isla. And look at that, I definitely misspelled something here. Yeah, I'll fix that later. So we're going to say genres, horror, okay, great. So now I can go back to my list and I'm going to take away mentor I. Sorry, mentor I, you're done. Now there are two ways I could do this. I could check it off just for the purpose of Notion. I could check it off so that it's like, okay, she's crossed out. Let's do that. And actually, let's open this in a different tab. So this way, whenever I need to see the list, I don't have to do as much hoopla, so to speak. So here we're going to go back to YA Fabulism. Okay, so our next step is the anti-MSWL step. So we have 9 mentors and we need to check their anti-MSWL. So this is how this is going to look. I'm going to click on the list of mentors and I'm going to check someone's anti-MSWL. I don't need to show you me checking every single mentor's anti-MSWL because you're pretty much going to get it, right? But let's click on Fiona. Okay, so she doesn't like high fantasy, but other kinds of fantasy are fine. Tethered, because it is a specific genre bender, might kind of work for that. Tethered is rather character focused, so I think it'll work. I'm looking for someone who's anti-MSWL. There we go. Here we go. Okay, so Amy is mentor A. She anti-MSWL's themes of grief. Now, even though my book has diversity, which is great, it also has themes of grief. So we're going to take her off of the list. So I'm just going to check her off, which makes it cross her off. Okay? Next, we're just going to do one more anti-MSWL check just for the purposes of like knowing how this works. So Charlotte doesn't have an anti-MSWL yet because I kind of wasn't sure what to say. So I decided to go to tvtropes.com with you right now and click random trope. Change of plans. I went over to the tvtropes.com to try and find a trope we could anti-MSWL, and that's maybe not going to. That didn't work out very well. So let's just say, you know, Manic Pixie Dream Girls. My book doesn't have any MPDGs, so I'm good, right? So this is where the anti-MSWL step comes in. So now we've narrowed it down. Yay! Step 4, MSWL. So this is not about elimination, it is about comparison. So I'm looking for mentors that are looking for things that are similar to my book. Does that make sense? But if they don't state something in their MSWL, but they don't state it in their anti-MSWL, we're not going to eliminate them, right? So if they don't specifically say, okay, I want like something that has to do with motorcycles. They don't say they want something that has to do with motorcycles, but they don't say they don't, and it's still in their genre. We're not going to eliminate them just for that. So yeah, we're going to go to mentors, quickly look through their MSWLs, something that makes me laugh, something with heart. So this is an example of one that's like, it's kind of broad. You're like hoping your story fits into this, so you're not going to eliminate Brooklyn. Okay. Genre mashups give me all the weird. This is one where the MSWL is like so fitting. So we're, for mentor C, who is Charlotte, we're going to be like, we might put some note like, wants genre mashups. Like, this is my type of thought process that I would just type something next to that person's name. She wants genre mashups. You know, something like that. And then let's see, what does Darlene want? Anything that can comp Downton Abbey, Doctor Who, or both. So this is an example of where my book does not specifically fit what she's has on her MSWL, but it also is not on her anti-MSWL. So I don't have to eliminate her. It's all good. Okay, so our next step is going to be the mentoring style plus what I'm looking for in a mentee. I can't spend too much time on this one simply because it is so individualized. You know, but something that someone might say on their mentoring style, we're just gonna type one up, yay. Okay, so her mentoring style could be like, sometimes you'll hear the term cheerleader feedback. Maybe she wants to do an edit letter plus inline comments. I don't do copy editing or something. Well, generally they're like, copy editing is not probably what you're going to expect anyway, but let's say she doesn't like to video chat. You might like to video chat. So, I mean, again, this doesn't have to be a deal breaker. I wouldn't have it as a deal breaker, but it's just like, I don't want to video chat with my mentee. You know, your mileage may vary. But then she might say, what I'm looking for in a mentee. This is why this is one of the reasons why this step is not first, is because what I'm looking for in a mentee is generally going to be, I would guess it's going to be something like someone who is ready to work and is able to take feedback and make it their own. Something like that, right? So like if I tell you like this scene is not working, but you're able to kind of like, you know, take my reasons why it's not working and kind of make that your own. I'm talking, I guess I sound like I'm talking about me, but this is about Darlene. This is not about me. So we're just going to assume for these purposes that we've eliminated a couple because of their mentoring style. Let's just say E and F. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mentors left, and we need to get it down to 4 for the purposes of this contest. So our final step is going to be the extra details, the tiebreakers. So we're going to look at our mentors. Okay, so who's left in this sort of process? B, C, D, G, H, and J. So let's say, okay, I'm going to show you what's on the extra, what types of things are on the extra details. We're going to put this in a new tab also, just so that I don't have to keep going back and forth, because that might be kind of tiring for you as the viewer. So now we're looking at all the mentors and we're looking at our extra details. Now, number one, if the person has published at least one book or is about to debut, does their book share some similarities to yours? I don't mean they are exactly the same, but if there are some similar themes or motifs, such as pirates, it may mean they share passion for those motifs with you. Parentheses, also don't be afraid of tropes. This means just because something is a trope doesn't mean it's a bad trope, but some tropes are problematic or, problematic or otherwise considered cliche or not considered the best thing. But sometimes tropes are just tropes. Anyway, if a mentor is not published, I personally wouldn't count it against them, and I don't think that you should either. I don't want you to talk yourself out of a great mentor just because they're not published yet. Everybody who is published once was not published yet, okay? So if we go to like Charlotte, see, this doesn't say that she's published. That's okay, okay? Everyone who is in this position where they are published, like I think Garrett is published, at one point they were in Charlotte's position, okay? And at one point Charlotte was in your position, and all these other people were in your position where they didn't even have an agent yet. So, okay, that's going to sound a little bit soapboxy, but basically, if the person is published, then we're going to want to see what kind of thing they have published. So Garrett is still here, right? So let's say his books are called All We Have Left, coming out in 2021, and Sketch, coming out in 2022. I totally made these titles up, but let's just say for the purposes of this example that Sketch is set in like a near future world. It's sci-fi, but it's got some, commentary on society, which a lot of sci-fi does. Well, okay, he wrote some sci-fi, got some commentary on society. It's got this like near future feel to it. Whatever kinds of themes there might be there that, friendship, maybe found families, etc., that are similar to my book, I'm going to be like, you know what? He wrote about friendship, found families in the near future. So I feel like he's going to understand why I wanted to write about those things. So we can kind of identify with each other. So again, this is one where it doesn't really have to be an elimination, but at the same time it does, because you have to, you got to make a choice, right? So, but if you're like, I got these 6 and they're all really great. Yes, if they are published, you know what they write. If they're not published, you still might know what they write because of social media, and social media is the last step. As I'm saying here, social media is like, I don't think of it as like if they're not on social media, that's a deal breaker, but if they are, you may be able to learn some things about them. The types of things they write, the types of things they like, all of that. So let's say that through that I have eliminated one more. So yeah, let's say I eliminate Harley. Sorry, Harley. Haha, it sounds like sorry, Charlie. So let's say I've eliminated Harley. So I've got 5 left and I need to go down to 4. This is where you may have to move to step 7. Did I put step 7 here? I didn't. Okay, that is my mistake. Okay, I'm having a hard time making a new page for step 7. Again, still figuring out Notion, so sorry about that. But we're just going to make a new page that says step 7. I thought I had made this already, but step 7 is March Madness. This is literally what I did. So March Madness, I call it that because of basketball, but it's the idea of um, eliminating things by pairing them up. So if it would work better if you had like a power of 2, like 8 or 16, because you could do A versus B and do C versus D, and then the winner of these two matches could match up, like you'd have a whole bracket. We're not doing that because we only have 5. But let's say, okay, B, C, D, G, and J. So you can do B versus C, um, C versus D, etc., and like the person that whoever gets eliminated is where you're gonna, so how would I explain this? So eventually you might have like a ranking there, and then you're gonna have to take out number 5. So B versus C, let's say that C wins. C versus D, let's say that C wins again. Okay, then you have C versus G, and G wins this time. Then you have G versus J, I think. Yeah, G versus J, and G wins again. So basically, G is going to come out on top because it beats C. So number 1 is going to be G. 2 is probably going to be C because it won twice. And then you have your D or B. Let's just say now we're going to do B versus D versus, did I forget somebody? Oh, I forgot J. I'm sorry. So G1, we're going to put D versus J, I guess. And let's say J wins. So you have G, C, okay, you know that J won once. Yeah, so out of J, G, and D, we need to know what's going to go next. Well, D didn't win at all. J won once, so but J. This is like really mathematically not exactly how you should do this with 5 players. Maybe you should match each one up with all the others. I'm just not exactly sure. But then at the end, we're gonna GCJ. Lastly, we have B or D. So we're gonna pair B with D, and the person that wins is gonna be, let's say that B wins. Okay, so yeah, B wins, and D is number 5. Because D is number 5, we're gonna cross it off. So we're going to say not subbing to D. We cross off D. And now we have our 4 mentor choices. So we have G, C, J, and B, which brings us to Garrett, Charlotte, Jasmine, and Brooklyn. Yay, we have our 4 mentors. This is so exciting. The very, very, very last resort, if the March Madness didn't work, is you could always use a random number generator, but I think that by the time you get to the March Madness, you're gonna basically know what you want. You're gonna basically know who you think would be a good match for you and your book. So now you have your little list of your 4 mentors to sub to. Yay! And some of you may have already subbed by the time this video comes out, and again, I am sorry that I didn't get it out earlier, but I am hoping that in the future rounds, this can help somebody. Um, I'm hoping that if you're entering Author Mentor Match, that you're having a ton of fun, because the process of preparing for AMM and, applying and, interacting with other people on social media can be so much fun. You may not be interacting with people on social media as much. You may be in a mad dash to get your manuscript ready before the end of the submission period. And you know what? That's okay, because you gotta do what you gotta do, okay? The point is, I hope that you are all having fun, having fun and finding a community is just like really amazing. And so even if you don't get into AMM, I do hope that you will find your community, because that's something that I really love about Author Mentor Match. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next video.